Last time on Dude, You Haven't Played This Game.
Harley, send him to the future or something. I've got some choo-choo rocket to play.
Whoa, what's happening?
Whew. Oh, this sucks. Here's access to Sector 5. Thanks? No problemo. Of course, it had to be robots!
Anyways, the master computer is saved. Now I can go home. But how do I get back to the present? Well, I guess I'll figure something out.
It's been 9 long years since I've retaken over the master computer and saved the world from an evil alien race. But I feel like my purpose is yet to be fulfilled. I feel like there's more to do here. What to do here? If only there was a sequel. Power Blade 2 is the 1992 sequel to the previous title, which reversed the method of release by being designed for North American audiences first before making its way back east as a game called Captain Saver. Though Power Blade aims for a more linear approach, its streamlined methods create a clear distance from its predecessor. Power Blade 2 reaches for the notion that smaller is better, all while dividing players by keeping things simple yet challenging. But do these changes make Power Blade 2 a better game? Let's find out. So, 9 years have passed, and Nova is called to action by the United States Department of Defense. Hold up, is that Sergeant Slaughter or Bennett from Commando? I can't tell the difference. Anyways, the United States is casually threatened with a brand new advanced cybernetic robot that a group called the Delta Corporation has built. They are told that they have 1 week to purchase this weapon before it's sold to an outside country that could use it against the United States. So, SB headquarters takes on the task of breaking into the Delta Corporation to essentially, well...
Let's torch this place and get away!
No, seriously, you're breaking and entering a private corporation to destroy millions of dollars worth of equipment so no country can have the weapons? Nice going, America. So, after starting your mission, you'll get to choose from 4 stages initially by riding your hover bike, or hovercycle, or whatever other future terms you'd like to use. Using the directional pad to go left or right, you can choose between the levels. After you destroy all 4 buildings, the 5th level becomes playable. The levels are fairly spread out in length, averaging about 7 to 10 sections in each stage. That may not seem like a lot, but each room presents enemies, platforming challenges, and traps galore to keep you busy for quite some time. There's enough variety despite the loss of exploration from the previous title. Power Blade 2 is a by-the-books action platformer similar to Mega Man, even more so than the first Power Blade. Gone are the branching paths and wide open atmosphere. In fact, Power Blade 2's level design is downright claustrophobic. Part of this is the switch from outdoor areas to indoor buildings. It brings more structure to the game, so if you're looking for something completely linear, Power Blade 2 is your best bet. Because of this, there's a greater focus on each room's challenge and how best to approach it. This is where the suits come in handy. In the previous game, Nova could pick up an item that gave him a power suit, increasing the size and strength of his boomerang weapon, as well as giving him 3 bars of health that were completely separate from his regular life bar. However, Power Blade 2 requires Nova to unlock a variety of suits by defeating these dragon mini-bosses in each stage. When you see the door, hit up on the control pad and you'll enter into a room where you'll duke it out with the dragon. Defeat him and you can unlock the Newt suit, which allows Nova to scale walls and ceilings, the wetsuit, which lets Nova swim and move in water much faster, the rocket suit allowing Nova to hover and fly, and the Patriot suit, which has nothing to do with patriotism, it's just a suit that blocks projectiles. Weird. These suits all come in handy at various points of the game, and they can be used at different times by pressing the start button and then scrolling up or down to choose your suit. However, unlike the first game, they can only be used if they have power, which are item drops, similar to the normal health and boomerang pickups that the first game had as well. There are also energy tanks that can be picked up for the suits that will allow a refill if the bar is depleted automatically. However, these are rare, and if you die without using them, they have to be recollected. Health energy tanks are also available to be collected and are used by pressing the select button. Some of the levels where you have to use these suits can be brutal in difficulty, particularly the rocket suit. You have to hold down the A button and navigate in the air at the right times during this portion of level 3. If you try to travel when the fans are spinning, forget it, you're done for. But on the contrary, they make traveling a breeze in other sections, particularly this one involving these constantly moving blocks.
Meanwhile, in the present...
This sucks. Bring it back. I'm hungry. Yeah, and I want belly rubs.
Similar to the first game, there are plenty of robot enemies to keep you busy, combat-wise, but the real enemies here are the platforms and pitfalls in the game. I spent more time getting crushed and falling to my death than anything before. There are plenty of belt-scrolling levels here that will try your patience, forcing you to wait for platforms to load before you can get to them. If you're too quick, you'll die, but if you're too slow, well, you'll die. Bosses here are a breeze with the right suit, and when you collect them all, the game really starts to hit its stride, allowing players to focus more on shifting into the right suit to respond to the various traps and tricks of Nova's world. Speaking of shifting and sliding, sliding is now a thing that Nova does. Clearly inspired by Mega Man 3, Nova can slide by pressing the direction you want to slide with, the down button, and the A button. This was a helpful feature which wouldn't have fit well in the first game because of the open-ended environments, so it feels right at home here. Plus, I really like the momentum sliding brings in this game, especially when you do it on the edge of a platform. There's a larger focus on physics in this game with the sliding mechanics giving weight to the player, along with the gravity pull of the rocket and wetsuits. The difficulty is ramped up quite a bit in this game when compared to the first, though a lot of it can be attributed to cheap deaths and not enough checkpoints. Because levels are so much shorter, there's a greater emphasis in making the enemies tougher and making Nova more vulnerable to shots at a quicker pace. There isn't much buffer time between getting hit repeatedly, and your life bar will fall quickly if you're not careful. I do have a problem with this, as it's an artificial way to drive up the difficulty, and while it didn't make the game less fun for me, it drove me nuts to have to take a shot in the face multiple times in a row. Sometimes it was my own stupidity that caused it to occur, but other times... After unlocking the 5th stage, you'll get to an empty room with a woman standing in the middle. Okay, wait, hold up. Who is this Jacqueline lady? When did she enter into the picture? She wasn't in the first game, and the only other time I'd assume she'd mention is in the manual, but shouldn't they have had some kind of cutscene featuring her prior to this? He's talking to her like she was kidnapped, and there's zero mention of it. And wait, what? None of this makes sense. If the Delta Corporation was run by aliens and they were just trying to raise money to launch a full-scale invasion, but then they launched the invasion anyways, doesn't that negate the whole point of the raising of funds? And why would aliens need American currency to start a war? They're aliens.
Aliens again? Of course.
Alright, so the plot is subpar, but thankfully the game's graphics aren't the same. There are tons of special effects like rotating chains and gears that really make this game glimmer with a dank darkness not seen in the first title. I'd compare it more to the first Batman game on the NES in terms of visual styles. Very dark and brooding with heavy, deep palettes of forest greens and blood reds, as compared to the first game's bright, cheerful sky blues and lighter tones. Again, because we're mostly inside buildings, it makes sense in comparison. We've got another solid soundtrack by Kinyo Yamashita for Power Blade 2. However, I think the tracks in the first game were stronger. Here we have a little bit less samba and a lot more blues and rockabilly, especially in the earlier tracks. It's all great stuff though, as her music never really disappoints, matching with the visuals and the more blue-collar industrial atmosphere. The game controls similar to the first title with the traditional button layout. A jumps, B throws your boomerang. All the same power-ups from the previous game apply here as well, aside from the aforementioned power suit differences, though I feel the hit detection is a bit off at points. If you get even a little close to a closing in wall or spike, you're done. This was the opposite in the first game. After defeating the lackluster final boss of Stage 5, a hole opens up in the ground and you're whisked away to a level that looks like it's right out of Contra's later stages. This is brutal. 14 sections, and if you die before reaching the boss, you start at the beginning. No checkpoints. Some would say it's unforgiving, cruel even. It's certainly a stark contrast to the previous game, which was much more lenient. Because of the hefty price tag, it's tough to recommend purchasing Power Blade 2 over Power Blade 1. Both games are built differently, and while the core mechanics are the same, the second game focuses on making gamers fight, kicking and screaming to see things till the end, whereas Power Blade 1 is an overall friendlier package of NES goodness. Both have stellar graphics and soundtracks, though again, Power Blade 1 comes ahead of the pack in my opinion. Either way, these are both great games.
Power Blade 1 and 2 are two totally different titles. While the first Power Blade is more non-linear and more explorative, the second game is, for the most part, a linear Mega Man clone. Does that make the game bad? No, definitely not. It's well worth owning both of these if you can. Well, the second game is very pricey, but the first I would absolutely drop some cash down for. So, why am I still here? I mean, everybody's destroyed. The world is saved again. So why am I what's happening? Whoa! Hey, I'm home. I'm home after all these years.
Can we have belly rubs now?
Glad to be home, guys. Glad to be home.
Hey guys, if you like the story arcs that I've been doing for these past 3 episodes, check out the Ikari no Yosai trilogy, which were 3 reviews that I did on 3 games in that trilogy. It starts with Fortified Zone, which is a link on the left-hand side that you can click. That was episode 24. It continues through Ikari no Yosai 2, which was episode 25, and Operation Logic Bomb, which was episode 26, and that kind of closes out that trilogy. If you're interested in more single episodes and you're looking for some NES goodness, check out the Batman review that I did way back on Season 1 of Dude You Haven't Played This Game. As always, thanks so much for watching.